You'll be inspired by both the sounds and sights of this beautiful planned community as we explore in-depth coastal living. Hi, I'm Alan Smith. We're stepping out of the studio and onto the beach in today's show to take a look at how beach living impacts gardeners and homeowners in coastal areas. Today we'll talk to an architect about what gives this area a unique style. We'll catch up with a local interior designer who shares his approach to creating a comfortable space. That's why we're here in Rosemary Beach, Florida, where we're going to explore some of these ideas a little further. Next to gardening, I'd say travel is right up there among the top of the activities I enjoy, especially when I can go to a beautiful destination like this and find some unique gardens and plants. Now I want to introduce you to this place. It's one of my favorite places to visit. It's Rosemary Beach in Florida. Now let's take a walk and let me introduce you to the town. I'm crazy about all the boardwalks here. They're perfect for walking or even riding a bicycle. You see, this community is more about walking and riding than cars, which makes it really, really charming. All of these porches spill off onto the boardwalk, which carry you down to the ocean. Now, one of the things that I like about this is that as you walk along, you can look over into some amazing courtyard gardens. They're tiny spaces, but they're filled with pools, fountains, arbors, pergolas, everything you need to create a beautiful outdoor living space. I also love the architecture here. And if you like this, you're going to love this. Just take a look at that fantastic view. You see, Rosemary Beach is a planned community. Now, there are residents who live here throughout the year, but it's also a great place for vacationers, particularly those who are interested in beautiful architecture, a hometown environment, delicious food, and lots of recreational activities. So the allure for visitors to a planned community like Rosemary Beach is pretty clear, but I have to wonder, do these towns really appeal to long-term residents? So I looked to Richard Gibbs, the town architect, for his perspective. Now this is a fantastic view. Richard, what is it about Rosemary Beach that makes it feel so much like a community?
Alan, this was designed as a TND, which stands for Traditional Neighborhood Development. And the essence of that design provides for a walking plan. So you can literally get out your front door and walk to downtown in 5 minutes, do some shopping, go to the beach. It's a very easy place to get around on foot. Not so easy in the automobile. In fact, cars are encouraged to stay off the streets and to stay in the carriage houses.
Yeah, so the whole community is really built for humans, not cars.
Exactly.
Yeah, what a concept.
Right, our streets are very narrow and it's not easy to drive around, but it's very easy to walk or bicycle ride. You may notice that all the homes here in Rosemary Beach have porches or balconies. That in fact is required by our building code. The porches are an important element of any walking community. People sit out and talk to their neighbors as they go by. It also provides shade and some protection from this harsh environment. You'll also notice that the homes are a combination of wood and stucco or all wood and all stucco. The look is very much taken from New Orleans architecture and inspired also by St. Augustine, Florida on the East Coast.
Now I know within the whole planned community there are a lot of public spaces, green spaces or greens.
Exactly. We have a great example here behind us. It's a park with playground equipment and the homes all face it, and it provides open space for these very, very tight lots. So you don't feel that you're closed in on all sides.
You know, I think some of the signature structures here are very striking, such as the town hall, which speaks to the fact that this is a community, it is a township.
Exactly. We built the town hall first as developers to signal that this place was indeed different from a typical subdivision. A town hall, of course, is not a money generator for a developer, but we wanted to show off and show that we were different and indeed a real place.
For those who choose to embrace beachside living, There's certain signature styles that seem to flow from inside to out, like these covered porches with furnishings and fabrics that help to make the spaces, well, more room-like. And there are pergolas and arbors around the town that really caught my eye. But what about the inside of the homes? If you're nosy like me and want to take a peek inside, stick around because we'll catch up with an interior designer who takes inspiration from his beachside surroundings. Earlier in the show, we learned about the allure of living in a planned community like this. I mean, after all, there are wonderful shops, gardens, and the beach all connected by this great system of boardwalks designed for walkers and bikers. It's great fun, really. In fact, I find this environment quite inspirational. So how does living on the beach inspire others? Philip Sines is an interior designer who trained as an architect. He employs principles of design that can be used both inside and out. Let's step inside this cottage and see an example of his work. Hey, Philip.
Hey, Alan, how are you?
Very well, thank you.
All right.
Yeah, what a beautiful space.
Yeah, it's a pretty wonderful space. I remember the client saying he wanted it to feel more like a loft than a normal house, and I think the architect Eric Watson did a great job.
Oh,
with
I
it.
can see that. The light is just pouring in.
Yeah, it's nice to have those transom windows up high that bring in the light, bounce off the ceiling, and
Well, it must make the space feel larger than it actually is.
it does. And I think by keeping the drapery color closer to the wall, it kind of doesn't stop the eye also.
It just reads as one sort of color theme across each wall.
Exactly.
And the shades as well. I mean, they're in the same color family as the drapery.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. So Philip, when you come into a space like this, what sorts of things do you do to pull it all together?
Well, you've got two definite kinds of spaces here, a living room with a high ceiling, a dining room with a lower ceiling. So obviously color is a way to unify a space, as is one continuous rug as opposed to breaking it up with two rugs. The other thing is to keep the scale of the furniture all in a similar scale and just bouncing spots of color off of your basic pieces that repeat themselves. I chose what has become a rather popular color scheme this day and time, and that's blue and brown, and the two colors complement each other very nicely.
It's really beautiful. You know, Philip, I'm always struck by the parallels between interior design and exterior design or landscape architecture.
Oh, I agree completely. There are many similarities, such things as the use of bold, simple elements,
Framing views as you come here in this room. Yeah.
bold uses of color and not just spattering color all about.
And color choices. I mean, I find, as you've done here, by using pale, sort of soft, cool blue colors, that it feels more expansive, whereas hot reds would make the room feel much smaller.
Oh, absolutely. I never use colors like that in a room because they're very tiring and are just difficult to live with.
Okay, after the break, we're taking a little side trip. We're off to Memphis, Tennessee, to the home of the king for a creative container idea. So stay with us. Okay, confession time. Even before my first trip to England, where most people are just fascinated by Elvis, I toured Graceland. And here comes the confession part. I liked what I saw, because to me it was quite an expression of personal style.
Elvis had a unique taste, he had a unique style in music, and his personality is all over the house. Folks that come to Graceland get to see basically a time capsule. It's not just where Elvis lived, it's also a time capsule for that era of the 60s and 70s. The furnishings on the inside are from that era. By far the most popular room at Graceland is the Jungle Room. In the mid-70s, Elvis had it outfitted with green shag carpet. He found some furniture at a Memphis furniture store late one night. It had a Polynesian style to it. It reminded him of Hawaii. The room originally was Elvis's favorite. Here at Graceland, you just kind of always think the mansion, but behind the mansion, Elvis had a huge backyard, and it was more like a farm. We actually have a barn here on the property, and we have horses, and when Elvis lived here, he'd rather play than plant. So when the mansion actually opened in 1982, a lot of work went into getting the grounds ready. The azaleas were planted, pansies, some annual flowers were put in, and monkey grass. A lot of landscaping was done prior to the opening of the mansion to kind of get it ready and picturesque.
When I travel, I like to bring home ideas that I can use in my garden. And so I couldn't help but think that the perfect container for an Elvis fan would be a blue suede shoe.
Well, once you visit Graceland, you can have your own King of Rock and Roll keepsake with your blue suede shoes. If you can find some around town, just pick up a pair and you can start planning your own Elvis garden. You'll first need your plastic container here to catch the water here in the shoe and kind of protect it. You'll want to fill it with some soil. Now that we've got our soil in our blue suede shoe, we're going to go ahead and take our plant. Today we're going to be using some simp plants. These would grow in the Memphis climate, although we don't have them growing here at Graceland. They'll certainly do just fine for our blue suede shoe as working in our planter here. Now we're going to get another type of simp plant. This will kind of give our shoe some flow over the edges and kind of give it some character. And you don't need all the soil that's in the container that comes from the store, so kind of break it off a little. Now the third and final plant we're going to use is a fern-like simp plant. It's going to actually add some color and texture to our blue suede shoe planter, and once you get that in there, it's going to add just a pop of color and some additional texture to the already nice blue suede shoe we have here. And the great thing about these plants is they don't really require all that much care. Just water it on a somewhat regular basis, throw it into a window that has some sun, and you're ready to go.
Today's viewer question comes from a couple in Michigan, and it's about color. The Williams asked how I came to pick the color of my home. Well, thanks for asking. As many of you may have heard, my home is actually very old, from the turn of the century, and it was in line for demolition when I found it. I purchased it for $1 with the promise to remove it intact from its original location. Well, you can just imagine my neighbors' surprise when they saw this house rolling down the street onto what had been a vacant lot for years. Now, a lot of work had to be done in those early years, and it was important for me for the home to have a color that would fit into the surrounding neighborhood and at the same time be a neutral backdrop for the garden that I plan to build around it. The color I chose was a dove gray, and it's really served me well. The garden's grown up around the house, and there have been very few visual clashes between plants and the house. In fact, I'd say harmonious is a better way to describe the relationship. You see, with a neutral background, whether I have a cool color scheme where I'm using lavenders and purples or blues, or a hot color scheme with screaming oranges and reds, it doesn't matter. They work beautifully against this neutral backdrop. There are a lot of different tricks you can use with color in the garden. If you'd like some more tips, just check out my website. That's pallensmith.com. So if you're interested in color schemes, feel free to use that as a resource. All right, we're headed back to Rosemary Beach for a delicious recipe fresh from the ocean and the gardens at this seaside destination, so stay with us. Another great advantage about living next to the ocean is that they have the freshest seafood. So why don't we step into a Nano and see what our chef has created in the way of a beachside recipe.
Start out with one of our most popular dishes here at Onano. It's the sea scallops gremolata. It's my signature dish. Little lemon risotto. It's very, very light and refreshing with the scallops. Lemon goes well with most seafood. So we'll start that. I put the flame on about medium here. Risotto, you want to cook it slowly because if you cook it too fast, it'll release too much starch. Put a little fish stock in here, a little fish fumet, because it is seafood, so why not? Next, I'm gonna add a little preserved lemon. Preserved lemon is a staple condiment in the Mediterranean, North Africa as well as Italy. Get that in there, add a little kosher salt, a little white pepper. I like white pepper because white pepper I feel goes well with shellfish and fish. And I'm gonna give it a little stir. You wanna baby the risotto. Risotto, you really wanna keep a stir on it. Okay? Next, you're gonna add some fat because we need a little fat to cut the acid in the lemon for the risotto. So add a little mascarpone cheese. Turn the heat down just a little because you don't want it to separate. Of course, you wanna give that a little stir, incorporate it all in, bind it. Pretty soon you'll start to see you have a creamy texture on this. That's exactly what we're looking for when you make risotto. Okay, and then also I'm gonna add just a touch of butter to this. Just a little butter right here. Get a little bit of that out. Just a little bit because you've already got a lot of cheese in there, so you don't wanna kill somebody with too much fat. Right, next I'm gonna add a little asparagus. This asparagus, I pre-blanched it, so all I need to do is heat it up. Gives it a nice color, good crunchy texture to the dish as well. Go ahead and take it to the plate. Nice in the center here. It's a nice texture. For the sauce for the scallops, I like to use a little fish stock, once again. 4 ounces of that. And put it on the flame. I'm gonna get this hot, of course, and then I'm gonna add some saffron. That's first because you want the saffron to bloom to give it that beautiful yellow color. Okay, the saffron. Next, add a little shallot, just a little bit there for crispness. Then, of course, once again, the preserved lemon, just a little bit. So I'll let that heat up, get that going. Kind of stir it around a little bit, get that stuff blooming. Yeah, just let it simmer just for a second, just to get it heated. Let that saffron, take on that yellow color. And then I'll add a little butter for a little richness. Keep stirring it. You don't need to add any salt to this because once it starts reducing, it's a fish stock, it will get a little more concentrated with salt, so. Okay, and now I'm gonna go ahead and put it on the plate. Make sure you get some saffron threads in there. It's got a nice, lovely yellow color. Go ahead and add my scallops that I seared off earlier here. Got them a little brown on top for a little caramelization. Beautiful scallops. Now, down here on the Gulf Coast, people tend to like shrimp. Shrimp is perfectly acceptable with this dish with the lemon. Like I said, it goes with most seafood. Shrimp or any kind of Gulf grouper would be perfect. So I got the scallops on, and then I add just a simple herb mixture of chives, parsley, and basil.
In today's show, we've certainly seen our share of inspiring architecture, beautiful interiors, and some breathtaking verandas. The views from this porch are fantastic, and the waves, well, they're mesmerizing. I could just stand here and enjoy them all day. Well, that's all the time we have for today's show. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have. Just take a look at that gorgeous sunset. From the garden, I'm Alan Smith.
In this garden I dream of a bed of flowers. Bluebirds sing of the beauty all around us. And every time the sun comes out, I can't help but smile. Oh, no, I can't help but smile.